My parents spoiled my brother on his birthday. On mine, they gave me a joke box in front of everyone. My name is Alyssa. I'm 28, from the Atlanta suburbs. Pause. And if you've ever grown up with a golden child sibling, you know the rules without anyone saying them out loud. Beat. My brother Brandon is 2 years older than me. He's not evil. He's not a cartoon villain. He's just always been the center. Pause. When Brandon was a kid, my parents called him spirited. When I was a kid, they called me mature. And if you're the mature one, you learn early that your feelings are supposed to be quiet. So, Brandon's 30th birthday? My parents went big. They rented a lake house about an hour outside the city. They invited extended family. They booked a nice dinner. They even hired a photographer for candids, like it was an engagement party. Pause. At dinner, my mom stood up and tapped her glass. Everyone, she said, smiling wide, we are so proud of Brandon. He's always had big dreams. My dad added, and we want him to know we believe in him. Then they handed Brandon a big envelope. Brandon opened it. Inside was a printed picture of a brand new jet ski. Not a toy. Not a rental. A real one. Beat. Everyone cheered. My mom teared up like Brandon had won an award. I clapped too. Because that's what you do when you're the reliable kid and the room is watching. Human interjection. Be honest, if you were me, would you have said something right there? Because I didn't. I told myself, it's his birthday, don't be petty. 2 weeks later, it was my birthday. 24. Not a milestone, but still, my day. My parents insisted on a family dinner at their house. Nothing big, my mom texted. Just cake and family. Pause. When I arrived, the vibe was weirdly cheerful. Too cheerful. Like everyone knew a punchline I didn't. My Aunt Tanya was there. 2 cousins. Brandon, of course, sitting on the couch like he owned the place. My mom hugged me and said, "Birthday girl." Then she glanced at Brandon, and he smirked. That little smirk you do when you're holding back laughter. I sat down at the dining table. My mom brought out cake. Everyone sang. I made a wish, blew out candles, smiled for photos. Then my dad disappeared into the garage and came back holding a medium-sized box wrapped in bright paper. He set it in front of me with both hands, like it was important. My mom said, "Okay, open it. Open it right now." I laughed politely. "Now?" Brandon leaned forward. "Yeah, open it. It's hilarious." My stomach tightened. But I smiled anyway, because I didn't want to be the person who can't take a joke. I tore off the wrapping. Underneath was a hard plastic box with a label, Joke Box 1, and a big sticker that said, "Don't open without the tools." There were tiny screws, multiple layers. It looked like a prank gift designed to waste your time. Everyone laughed, like the box itself was comedy. My mom clapped. "Isn't it fun?" I forced a laugh. Sure. Mini cliffhanger. That's the moment I realized. This wasn't a gift. This was an event. And I was the entertainment. My dad handed me a little screwdriver set. "Go ahead," he said. "We'll wait." So I started unscrewing. One screw, then another. The box had a second lid, then a third. My cousins were filming. Brandon was narrating like a sports announcer. "Look at her go," he said. "She's so patient. Alyssa's always patient." That line hit me harder than it should have. Because it was true. And they were laughing at it. Pause. I kept opening the box, calm face, steady hands. Not because it was funny. Because I refused to give them the reaction they wanted. After 10 minutes, I finally reached the inner compartment. Inside was a smaller box. Wrapped. Everyone leaned in. My mom said, "Open that one too." I unwrapped the smaller box. Inside was a folded piece of paper and a tiny keychain that said, "Team Brandon." The room exploded in laughter. My dad laughed the loudest. My mom said, "Oh my gosh, it's perfect." I stared at the keychain. Then I unfolded the paper. It said, "Your real present is inside. Scan the code." There was a QR code. Mini cliffhanger. The whole room was laughing, but suddenly I felt cold, because nobody gives you a QR code as a heartfelt gift. I smiled tightly and said, "What is this?" My mom said too quickly, "Just scan it, sweetie." Brandon said, "Do it, do it." I didn't scan it there. I put the paper back in the box, closed it, and said, "I'll look later." The laughter dipped, like I'd refused to finish a joke. My mom's smile stiffened. Don't be like that. I stayed calm. I'm not. I just want to enjoy cake. Human interjection. If you've ever been in a family where saying not right now is treated like rebellion, you know how heavy that moment feels. I could feel the room turning on me. So I did what I always did. I made it easy. Pause. I ate cake. I thanked everyone. I left early. In my car, I sat in the driveway for a full minute before starting the engine. Then I did the one small change. I created a folder on my phone called Receipts, and I took a photo of the QR code paper and the Team Brandon keychain. Because something told me this wasn't finished. When I got home, I scanned the QR code. It opened a fundraising page titled, Brandon's Dream Family Support Fund. Goal, $25,000. And under suggested donation amounts were buttons like 50美元, 100美元, 250美元, 1000美元. My throat went dry. Mini cliffhanger. That's when I understood my birthday wasn't about celebrating me. It was about collecting money for him. And the joke box was the wrapper. The next morning, I woke up to a family group chat notification. My mom had posted the same fundraiser link with a cheerful message. Hey family, Brandon has an exciting opportunity, and we're all pitching in. Let's show him love. Then she added, right under it, and yes, Alyssa already got her gift. I stared at that line, because it wasn't true. I got a keychain that said Team Brandon, and a fundraiser link. Pause. Mini cliffhanger. That's how rewriting starts. A joke becomes a gift. A humiliation becomes a tradition. I didn't respond. I screenshotted it and saved it into receipts. Then my dad texted me privately. Don't be sensitive, it was meant to be funny. I replied, calm. Dad, why was my birthday used to promote a fundraiser for Brandon? He didn't answer for an hour. Then, because you're good at taking things in stride. There it was again. My maturity being used as a tool. Human interjection. You know what's wild? The people who benefit from your patience always call it a virtue, but they never ask if it hurts. That week, the pressure started. My Aunt Tanya texted, Hey, your mom says you're on board. How much are you donating? My cousin sent a Venmo request, $200 with a note. For Brandon's dream. Even Brandon texted me, casually. Throw in something. Don't make it weird. I stared at the words, don't make it weird. Like refusing to fund his life was the weird part. Mini cliffhanger. When the golden child is used to getting everything, no, feels to them like aggression. I called my mom. She answered like nothing happened. Hi, honey. I said, Mom, why did you say I already got my gift? She laughed. Because you did. The joke box. That wasn't a gift, I said calmly. That was you collecting donations on my birthday. My mom's voice sharpened. Alyssa, you're twisting it. I stayed steady. What was my actual present? She sighed, like I was exhausting. Alyssa, you're an adult. You don't need presents. I paused. But Brandon needs a jet ski. Silence. Then she snapped, that was for his birthday. And the fundraiser? I asked. My mom said quieter now. He's starting something, and he needs support. I asked, what is he starting? She hesitated. A business. What kind? I asked. Another pause. It doesn't matter. Mini cliffhanger. The moment someone says it doesn't matter, it usually matters a lot. I didn't argue. I just said, I'm not donating. My mom's voice turned cold. So you're not supporting your brother? I support him emotionally, I said. I'm not funding him. She scoffed. Wow. Must be nice to be selfish. I ended the call. That night, Brandon showed up at my apartment, unannounced. He stood in the hallway, hands in his pockets, like he was doing me a favor by being there. Seriously, he said. You couldn't just donate a little? I kept my voice calm. Brandon, you got a lake house weekend and a jet ski. He rolled his eyes. That's different. How? I asked. He smirked. Because Mom and Dad believe in me. I stared at him. And what do they believe about me? He shrugged. You'll be fine. You always are. Mini cliffhanger. That sentence, you'll be fine, is the most brutal compliment in families like mine. I asked, so why use my birthday? Brandon leaned closer. Because it's funny, and because it gets people talking. It's marketing. Marketing! My birthday dinner was marketing. I said, leave. Brandon's smile faded. Don't do this. I repeated, calm. Leave. He left, but not before saying, "You're going to regret being difficult." I locked the door and just stood there, breathing. Human interjection. If you're thinking, this is just a bad joke, why escalate? I thought that too, until the next step, because they didn't stop at a fundraiser link. 2 days later, my mom emailed me a document. Subject: quick form, nothing big. It was a 1-page letter that said, "I, Alyssa, agree to support Brandon's venture as a family sponsor." Not a legal contract, but it had signature lines, and it was written like something you'd show investors. Mini cliffhanger. They wanted my name, not my love. My name. I forwarded it to myself and saved it. Then I replied with one sentence. "I won't be signing anything. Please stop." My dad called immediately. He didn't say hello. He said, "Do you want to tear this family apart?" I replied calmly, "You used my birthday to fundraise. I'm not the one tearing anything." He snapped, "You're jealous." And that's when I realized something important. They had one explanation for everything I did: jealousy. Because if they labeled me jealous, they didn't have to consider that they were unfair. Pause. So, I did what I'd never done before. I told my Aunt Tanya the truth. I sent her photo of the joke box label, photo of the keychain, screenshot of the group chat fundraiser message, screenshot of my mom's "you don't need presents" text. Yes, she later texted it. My aunt replied with 3 words. Are you serious? Mini cliffhanger. When one person finally sees the receipts, the whole system gets shaky. At the barbecue, I stayed calm. I greeted cousins. I held a soda. I smiled when people looked at me. Then Tanya pulled me aside near the kitchen and said, "Alyssa, what's going on?" I told her quietly, I never promised $5,000. Tanya's eyes narrowed. "I believed you. I just wanted to hear you say it." Human interjection. That's what receipts do. They don't just prove your point. They give sane people permission to trust their instincts. We walked back outside, and I noticed my mom watching us. Her face was polite, but her eyes were sharp. 10 minutes later, she made an announcement like it was a fundraiser gala. "Family," she said loudly. "We're almost halfway to Brandon's goal, and Alyssa was going to contribute too. She's just been busy." I felt heat rush up my neck. That was the moment she tried to force me to comply publicly. Mini cliffhanger. If you've never dealt with this, it's hard to explain. They corner you in public because they assume you won't make a scene. And they're right most of the time. I put my drink down. I didn't shout. I didn't insult her. I said, calmly, loud enough for the closest people to hear, "Mom, I didn't agree to that. Please don't speak for me." The yard went quiet in a slow wave. My mom's smile froze. "Alyssa," I continued, still calm, "I'm happy Brandon is pursuing something, but you used my birthday to push donations. I'm not comfortable being listed as a sponsor." My dad stepped forward, voice low. "Not here." And I said, "Then don't bring it up here." Mini cliffhanger. The power shift wasn't in my words. It was in the fact that I stayed calm while refusing. Brandon laughed awkwardly. "Oh my gosh, Alyssa. Relax." I looked at him. "I am relaxed." My mom's face tightened. "You're embarrassing us." I nodded once. "You embarrassed me first." Then I walked inside, used the bathroom, and took a breath. When I came back out, my grandma, sweet, old school, touched my arm and whispered, "You should have just smiled." I smiled gently. I did. For years. That night, my mom sent me a long text about respect and family loyalty. I saved it. Then she sent another. "If you don't support Brandon, don't expect help from us later." I stared at the screen and thought, what help? They'd never helped me the way they helped him. Pause. I was working full-time, paying rent, paying my own bills. My parents' help was mostly advice and pressure. Human interjection. This is the point where you realize you're being threatened with losing something you never actually had. A week later, I got invited through a cousin to Brandon's launch party. I didn't go, but I watched from a distance because the event was posted online. Brandon was presenting his business to friends and family. There were banners, a slideshow, a sign-up sheet, and on the slideshow, under founding sponsors, were names. My parents, Aunt Tanya, without her consent, and mine, Alyssa R. family sponsor. My chest went cold. Mini cliffhanger. Seeing my name on his screen without my permission felt like someone taking my identity and using it as decor. I immediately emailed my mom, my dad, And Brandon, I did not consent to my name being used. Remove it from any materials. Confirm in writing. Brandon replied first. Chill. It's not that serious. My dad replied, You're being dramatic. My mom replied, You're making us look bad. No one said, We're sorry. No one said, We'll remove it. So, I contacted the event venue and asked them to forward a message to the organizer, remove my name from signage and slides. They did. And that's when the anger escalated. Brandon texted me, You're sabotaging me. I replied, I'm protecting my name. He responded, Then don't come begging when you need family. Mini cliffhanger. It's always family when they want something. It's never family when you need basic respect. I started limiting contact. I stopped answering calls. I stopped attending dinners. And then, quietly, my life got better. I spent time with friends who didn't make jokes out of me. I started doing birthdays the way I wanted: small dinner, no performance. My friend Jules threw me a late birthday night with cupcakes and a silly candle. No prank gifts, no speeches, just kindness. I remember thinking, this is what birthdays are supposed to feel like. Then, about 6 months later, Aunt Tanya called me. Alyssa, she said, voice tight, I need to tell you something. What? I asked. She hesitated. Brandon's venture isn't going well, and your parents are putting money in. A lot. I swallowed. How much? Tanya exhaled. Enough that they refinanced their house. My stomach dropped. Mini cliffhanger. That's when I realized this wasn't about a fundraiser. It was about draining my parents' future for Brandon's present. When I saw co-signer request, I didn't feel guilty. I felt confirmed. Pause. Because the joke box wasn't random. It was a test. How much could they disrespect me and still expect me to contribute? I went to my parents' house, but I didn't go alone. I brought Jules with me to wait in the car, not for protection, just for witness. Because I'd learned, when you're alone with people who rewrite reality, you start doubting your own memory. Inside, my parents sat at the kitchen table with papers spread out like a small disaster. My mom looked tired. My dad looked embarrassed. My dad said, Thanks for coming. I sat down and said, Calm. What do you need? My mom slid a paper toward me. We just need your signature for Brandon's loan. It's a formality. I looked at the number. It was more than my yearly salary. Mini cliffhanger. The amount wasn't the scariest part. The scariest part was how casually they asked. I said, no. My mom blinked. Alyssa, don't be like this. I repeated, calm. No. My dad leaned forward. If you do this, it doesn't cost you anything. It's just to help him qualify. I asked, and if he doesn't pay? My mom waved her hand. He will. I looked at her. You refinanced your house. You thought he would pay then too. Silence. Human interjection. This is the moment where you realize your parents aren't asking you because they trust the golden child. They're asking you because they don't. My dad's voice tightened. We're doing everything we can to support him. I replied. You did everything to support him on his birthday. On mine, you gave me a fundraiser link. My mom's face hardened. That was a joke. No, I said. That was a message. My dad snapped. You're holding grudges. I answered, calm. I'm remembering patterns. Mini cliffhanger. They wanted me to feel petty, but I wasn't being petty. I was being safe. My mom tried a softer tone. Honey, we're stressed. We need you. I asked, where was that tenderness when you told everyone I promised $5,000? My mom's eyes filled. We were trying to keep the family united. I nodded slowly, at my expense. Then I said the boundary out loud, the one I'd avoided for years. I'm not funding Brandon. I'm not signing anything. And if you bring this up again, I'm taking a break from contact. My dad scoffed. So you'll abandon us? I replied, you abandoned me emotionally a long time ago. I'm just naming it. My mom started crying. We love you. I kept my voice gentle. Love isn't a prank gift and a pressure campaign. I stood up, calm, and walked out. In the car, Jules looked at me and said, you did amazing. I didn't feel amazing. I felt shaky, but I also felt free. Mini cliffhanger. The first time you enforce a boundary, you mourn the fantasy that they'll respond with empathy. The next year, I heard less and less from my family. Brandon stopped texting because guilt didn't work on me anymore. My mom stopped calling because her calls were really negotiations. My dad sent occasional "how are you" messages that felt like checking a box. And then, 4 years after the joke box dinner, my mom showed up at my door. No warning, no smile, just tired eyes and a grocery bag like a prop. I opened the door and said, "Mom?" She whispered, "Can I come in?" I hesitated. Then I stepped aside. She sat on my couch and looked around my apartment clean, calm, adult, and her face did something strange. She looked surprised that I was okay. Mini cliffhanger. Parents who build a golden child system often assume the other kid can't thrive without their approval. My mom said quietly, "We're losing the house." I didn't respond right away. I just breathed. Then I asked, "Where's Brandon?" She looked down. "He's not answering." Of course. My mom swallowed. "We need help." I asked, "What kind of help?" She hesitated. "Money. Or a place to stay." I sat across from her, calm. "Mom, I'm not going to fund Brandon through you." She flinched like I'd slapped her. "I'm not asking for him," she whispered. I nodded. "Yes, you are, because you wouldn't be losing the house without him." Mini cliffhanger. That's the thing about enabling. It's expensive. And the bill always comes due. My mom started crying again. "We made mistakes." I said gently, "You made choices." She looked up. "Do you hate us?" I shook my head. "No, but I don't trust you." We sat in silence. Then I said, "I'll help you find resources, I'll help you make a plan, but I'm not signing anything and I'm not draining my life savings." My mom nodded slowly, like she understood, but didn't like it. When my mom placed the joke box on my table, I stared at it like it was a live wire. I didn't open it. I asked, calm, "Why did you bring that?" She swallowed. "Because we found it, and I realized how cruel it was." I nodded slowly. "Did you?" My mom whispered, "At the time, we thought you'd laugh." Human interjection. Here's what I wish I could explain to parents like mine. The reliable kid doesn't laugh because it's funny. They laugh because they're trying to survive the room. I said, "I didn't laugh. I performed." My mom sat back down, smaller now. "I didn't know how bad it was," she said. I didn't argue. I just asked, "What do you want from me?" She exhaled. "I want my daughter back." I looked at her. "Then, tell the truth." She blinked. "What truth?" "The truth," I said, "is that you chose Brandon's comfort over my dignity. Over and over." My mom's face crumpled. "We did." It wasn't a perfect apology, but it was the first honest sentence I'd heard in years. Mini cliffhanger. I wanted to forgive her immediately because that's my wiring, but forgiveness without boundaries is just consent to repeat. I told her gently, "Here's what I can do. I can help you and Dad find a place. I can help you make a budget. I can help you talk to a counselor. But Brandon is not moving into my home, and I'm not paying his debts." My mom nodded. "Okay." I said, "And one more thing. You will not tell the family I came through for Brandon. If you accept help from me, you don't get to rewrite it into a story that makes him look protected." She swallowed. "Okay." That week, I helped them do adult things. Not dramatic, not cinematic. We called a housing counselor. We went through their expenses. We listed what they could sell. We made a plan for a smaller rental. My dad didn't say much. But one night, he called me quietly and said, "I'm sorry." Just that. I said, "Thank you." He added, "We thought Brandon would become grateful." I paused. "And what did you think I'd become?" He didn't answer for a second. Then he said, "We thought you'd always be fine." There it was again. The curse of being fine. Pause. Human interjection. If you're listening and you're the fine one in your family, I need you to hear this: being fine doesn't mean being used. My parents did lose the house. They downsized. Brandon didn't rescue them. He didn't step up. He barely showed up at all. And that was the real loss. Not the property. Not the money. They lost the story they'd built, the one where Brandon was destined for greatness, and I was just background support. Reality came in and did what it always does. It collected. Over time, my mom tried to repair things with me. Sometimes she did well. Sometimes she slipped back into "but Brandon." And every time she did, I repeated the boundary. I'm not discussing Brandon unless it's accountability, not excuses. Slowly, the conversations changed. Not perfect, but different. And me? I stopped trying to win birthdays. I started building them. I began celebrating with people who didn't need me to be the punchline. Last year, Jules and a few friends took me to dinner. They brought cupcakes. They brought silly hats. They brought a small gift bag. Inside was a simple card that said, "You deserve to be celebrated, not tested." I cried in the bathroom for 30 seconds, then came out and smiled. Because that sentence was the opposite of the joke box. It was a clean, human kindness. Mini cliffhanger. The best revenge isn't watching people fall. It's realizing you don't need their approval to stand up. So, yes, 4 years later, they lost. They lost money. They lost the illusion. They lost the ability to use me as the family's quiet insurance policy. And I gained something I didn't have at 24. A life where my maturity is mine, not a tool for other people. A life where my birthday is not a fundraiser. I didn't fix my family by yelling. I fixed my future by documenting the truth and drawing a line that finally stayed. One last thing. Pause. If you're the reliable one in your family, please hear me. You are allowed to be celebrated too, not tested, not used, beat. If you like calm, documentary-style stories with receipts and real payoffs, subscribe. I post long-form stories like this regularly. And the next one starts with a sweet family tradition, until you realize it's actually a trap.